Good morning. Back in the office. It's Blain's Morning Porridge. It's March the 9th, 2026. What's the plan? Keep bombing, but what? Let's start off with a quote. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. Smells like victory. Global disruption. How likely is it to end quickly? Trump's objective was to install a regime that will do his bidding in Iran. The appointment of Khamenei version 2.0, however, and the lack of a clear opposition, or even defectors, makes a swift closure of the war look increasingly less likely, and global markets are now pricing for a long, destabilising war with rising inflationary and geopolitical volatility. Now, I've just spent a bluebird week skiing in the Alps, blue skies and crisp pistes. After a swiftly written porridge on Monday morning, I switched off the world and tightened up my ski boots. Skiing makes me happy and makes me smile a lot, but my definition of good skiing isn't fast, but controlled, and above all stylish in a sort of 1970s way. And to cap a fantastic week on the slopes, we had Scotland beat France in the Six Nations, and our hosts, Italy, beat England. Yay, all fantastic. But it looks like I missed, well, an interesting week in markets. Long coach transfers to airports and even longer passport queues are great places to catch up on podcasts and read market notes. And as I read the reports, and Secretary of War Hesketh's promising more to come, I could not but think about Colonel Kilgore of the US Cavalry, the character played by Robert Duvall in Apocalypse Now. And one of the things about long 40-mile ski days on the mountain are the vivid technicolor dreams that often follow. And last night, although I'd got home, I dreamt that I'd been invited into some TV show to record an opinion piece on the current market moves. I was prepped to describe the consequences of higher oil and gas prices and the need to swiftly reopen the Straits of Hormuz to avoid economic slowdown. But the director was flapping around trying to get me to wear a different colour of shirt, and the lighting and the makeup weren't quite right for him. And eventually it was decided to do the piece live to camera. And as I was about to respond to a great question, the anchor said we had to cut it short and go to breaking news about something being hit by something. I guess my dream sums up the current excitement. There is plenty to talk about, even though we still lack clarity around what the objectives of the war are. And I do suspect that a marvellous insider book about the decision-making that's occurred around the war will emerge very soon after President Trump departs office. The bottom line is there's plenty of noise, but trying to construct the picture from all the bits now strewn across the floor, including the depth of American war stocks, the diminishing marginal returns that must be occurring from airstrikes, the economic consequences of higher energy price inflation and a likely recession as gas prices decimate Europe and Asia, the geopolitical issues around what China's intentions might be, and what will Russia's windfall profits from its sanctioned oil mean for the Ukraine war. Now, last Monday, before I went up on the hill to go skiing, I scribbled a note. What chance of a swift reopening of the Straits of Hormuz? And I'm going to stick with that thematic, that the longer global gas and oil flows are disrupted, the more volatile the economic and geopolitical consequences will be. I concluded that the real objective of the war is regime change. President Trump wants a new Iranian leader he can control and direct. Simple as. But that simple regime change now looks increasingly unlikely to happen. The confirmation of Mojtaba Khamenei as the Iranian regime's new leader will incense Trump. He's the son of martyred President Ali Khamenei. It suggests the IRGC and the regime are not prepared to surrender, but to dig in and likely be dug out by bunker busters. And there is no clear opposition alternative to the deeply unpopular regime. The Shah's son, Reza Pahlavi, has tried to present himself as a figurehead leader for widespread opposition to coalesce around, but despite cultivating the US right wing, he's failed to get Trump's blessing. And the Mojahedin al-Kaj, or MEC as they're known, claims to be the real opposition, but is dismissed as a cult by many of its detractors, of which there are many. It's unlikely to have much in the way of domestic support and is still blamed for the 1979 revolution. And the third factor is that while Iran runs the risk of internal disruption from groups such as the Kurds seeking to break away, and remember 40% of Iranians are non-Persians, there is no sign of the non-IRGC Artesh, that's the traditional Iranian or Persian Army, Navy and Air Force, switching sides. Therefore, the markets are now factoring in long-term disruption, and the Straits of Hormuz will remain the key friction point. The markets will swiftly rally on any hint of a settlement that might reopen them, including offers by Iran to open it to non-US aligned nations, which I suspect is in the hope that China will take advantage. Talk of G7 reserves being released has caused oil prices to fall from an overnight high of $120 back to $106, but the big issue is going to be gas prices in Europe, which could trigger massive long-term issues because European nations are attempting to rebuild their gas reserves after a long cold winter. And the big stock slides that we've seen in Asia are also gas related. The bottom line is that until the straits are reopened and disruption is cured, things are going to remain, well, interesting. I'll come back with a full dig into markets once I've cleared my inbox, but today it's simply another day of watching to see what happens next. Thanks very much for your attention. You can get the Morning Porridge on www.morningporridge.com, and if you sign up, it will be delivered fresh to your inbox every morning. Anyway, thanks very much for your attention. I'll be back in touch later. Cheers.